In the context of modal shift, meaning the efforts to reduce the harmful effects of the transport sector by shifting demand to more sustainable modes like rail and sea, companies with small to medium-sized freight transport demand have few options in reallocating their shipments from road-only services to multimodal ones. From the perspective of the freight transport buying company, the distinguishable properties of transport service are its lead time, price, reliability, and perhaps flexibility or environmental performance. Exactly how the service is produced ought to, at least in theory, only be of concern to the producers of the service. So the question becomes, what would it take for a shipper to produce more of its services using intermodal production means instead of road-only ones? What if the shipping company could have a virtual version of its system where it could experiment with alternative ways to configure or utilize its resources in order to accommodate its existing transport demand, but with a higher share of multimodal transport?
In this project, we aim to demonstrate the potential benefits of using discrete event simulation in the context of intermodal transportation systems. By modeling terminals and connecting them to road, train and ferry networks, we have created a network that includes some of the key nodes in Sweden, Norway, Finland and Denmark. And with input values such as timetables and constraints such as capacity limitations and delay probabilities, we are able to generate resources that enable transportations between the nodes, together forming a transportation system. Discrete event simulation is a computer-based method that allows us to model complex dynamics system. We use it to analyze the system behaviors and to optimize the performance. These models are often made up of processes or resources that are tied together by rules and logic that defines how they depend on each other, together forming a system that we can study by pushing or pulling a flow through it. Time isn't modeled as continuous in these models. Instead, we update the system state at each event. And this way of modeling time allows us to simulate very long periods of the month or years in just a couple of minutes. This makes it a safe and efficient way for us to experiment without interrupting the real system. And it allows us to evaluate all options and get an understanding of the expected outcome before we commit to any investments.
This project shows that we can use discrete event simulation to improve the performance of multimodal transports using boats, ferries and trucks, for example, by using the data from time series and the data from disturbances, as well as the planned departure from different transportation devices to reduce the CO2 emission and increase the accuracy and on-time delivery performance. However, this is not trivial, of course. There's a lot of data points needed and the standardized format of those data points are not the same. So we need some further development to come to a real practical use with many actors in this value chain. But it also shows already now potential to reduce the emissions and understand more about the future.
Discrete event simulation is often used within production and logistics to study material flow. We use it to analyze the capacity requirements, buffer sizes, or evaluate different planning or scheduling options. But the method could essentially be used to study most kinds of flow through any system.
The potential for this effort is really big if we can get many actors together in the whole value chain to see the whole effort on the transportation network. Of course, there's many actors on this and there are some says from different large and small actors. But in all for the society, that would be beneficial for CO2 emissions and accuracy and on-time delivery, and also for planning for the future. And by doing this kind of methodology development and understanding more about the back end of the data, we can predict the future, probably with using some AI, improved enhancement as well. Even if you don't see that AI will take the person's place to decide in the end, it can give you really good recommendations. And some of the larger actors are already looking into this aspect. And for the Nordic countries to come together to do this development together, it will be a real benefit for the whole society.